Well, hey guys, Jonathan Doyle with you once again. Welcome back as always to the Daily Message. Great to have the pleasure of your company. Please make sure you've subscribed. Hit the subscribe button wherever it is here and hit that notification bell. As always, it makes a big difference. Thanks for doing that. And as always, please post something in the comments if there's something that you find interesting, challenging. There's a different topic you'd like me to address. Please put that into the comments because it helps me to formulate the next episode. So what else? Also, in the description, there's a ton of free stuff there. You can book me to speak. You can get free access to my book, Bridging the Gap. That's in the description, so check that out too. I hope you heard yesterday's episode or watched yesterday's episode on Max Dupree and the basic mechanisms by which we change and grow. So make sure you watch that episode from yesterday. And as always, there's a link here in the description to the podcast version. So in the podcast, I got my headphones on, I go a bit deeper, I get a bit more excited about it all. Not that I'm not excited about this, it's great to do this, but I like the podcast because I think more deeply, and I'm just going to stop talking now because it sounds like the video version's just like the afterthought. But no, look, the podcast version's great, and I know a lot of people just love YouTube. I like YouTube. I've used their premium so that when you turn it off, it doesn't turn your phone screen off. It doesn't stop the flow. So there's some really great content in the world at the moment, and I think one of the great things of personal growth is just exposing ourselves to good content. Not just exposing ourselves, but exposing ourselves to really good content. All right, today we're going to jump into a quote from Stephen Covey, who many of you would know is one of the the big figures of personal development, personal efficiency over the last sort of 20, 30 years. He's passed away now after a very full life of contribution. He authored the famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a real classic in the genre. So if you haven't read that, it's worth reading. Really good, simple metaphors that will stay in your mind for a long time. I read it many years ago, and some of those core ideas have stayed with me. And I think that's the mark of a really good book, right? That the key ideas stay with you. So let's do this. Let's jump into today's quote from Stephen Covey. Let's do it. To achieve goals you've never achieved before, you need to start doing things that you've never done before. This is a little bit like what we covered yesterday with Max Dupree about how we need to become different people if we want to create different results in our lives. Today, Covey takes us a level deeper, that it's another one of those things in the personal development space that is almost a cliche. It's something that when you hear it said, you're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but we tend to struggle to do it. I mean, look at the basic mechanism of this quote. It's going, whatever you're experiencing in life right now is predominantly, as hard as this can be for all of us to hear at key times in life, what we're experiencing in life at the moment is a result of a whole bunch of decisions that have preceded it. For example, if you're really fit at the moment, then that's because of a bunch of decisions that have come before it. If you're not fit at the moment, it's because of a bunch of decisions that have come before it. That's not judgment, it's just kind of a observation of the structure of reality, right? That where we are in life. Now, I'm not discounting the craziness of life itself, luck. I was reading yesterday, some guy just won a $60 million lottery prize in this town. I mean, well, you could argue that that's a result of a bunch of decisions that he made previously. I get it, but I don't discount that there is great mystery in life and there are good people who suffer unexpected setbacks and difficulties. So there is some mystery here, but I think you can agree with me that the basic mechanism that Covey's pointing us towards is that if we want things to be different, we have to do different things. Let's stick with the exercise metaphor. If you want to be really fit and you do no exercise, then you're creating one set of results in your life, right? And this is not, we could pick something else. We could pick finances, relationships, spirituality, any particular area of life that's relevant for you. Whatever results you're experiencing, if you want them to be different, then you need to start doing different things. It's so easy to say it, but it's quite confronting to actually begin to do it. So we're back to this great question of personal development. What is that mechanism? What is the mechanism that explains why some people begin to take different actions and some don't? It is the great mystery. It remains, there's some things that I know. Desire plays a big part. Sometimes if you've had a real setback or there's something that you truly want, desire can be a great catalyst to creating change. A lot of times if you look at things like Alcoholics Anonymous, right? There's people, they talk about rock bottom. They talk about getting to a place that's so bad that you can't stay there anymore and radical change follows. So sometimes there's a tipping point, a catalyst moment that forces us, if we want to, because the offer is always there, but nothing can truly force us to act. I mean, someone can hold a gun to your head, right, and make you do something, but that's not true freedom, is it? I mean, you're not cooperating with your full freedom. You're just reacting to an externally imposed circumstance. So what we're looking for is these deep internal motivators, these deep internal mechanisms by which we change. Desire is a big one. Love is a big one in terms of wanting to be or contribute something for someone else, that we desire to be different people because we want to really honor and love the people in our lives. But let's wrap this up. Let me just present to you this basic idea that if you want things to be different, you need to identify what actions you need to take. That's the first step. Executing on them is a challenge. It can be hard. And how I wanted to talk about, we need to identify the resistance points, because most of us can agree with my core thesis here, right? We want things to be different. We need to do different actions. Obvious, because things would be different if we'd already taken those actions. We haven't taken them, so we're getting the state of results that we're currently in. This is starting to sound like Back to the Future, the time travel movies, where like starting to bend my mind thinking about the ways that we create our experience of life. But one of the key things to ask yourself if you're not taking an action is, what is the resistance? What is the resistance that is making it difficult to take the action? Sometimes that stuff can be pretty subtle. Sometimes, you can be brutally honest with yourself. Say, well, the real answer is I'm lazy. I'm just too lazy to do it. And if you dig deep under the skin of laziness, you're going to find some pretty challenging things, like a lack of self-love. And by self-love, I mean a respect and appreciation for your own capacity and potential. So laziness is like you don't honor yourself enough sometimes to actually get out and do the things that need to be done. A lack of a compelling vision. So there can be deep spiritual, psychological forces under some of these things. And I think a lot of the times people just don't want to know about them. We actually would prefer ignorance. We would prefer not to actually have to confront those things that are there. You also, I think, can be helpful to identify these resistance points, to give yourself space and time. And that's very hard for us as a culture at the moment. We're not doing a lot of that. We're so into immediacy and stimulation and distraction that sometimes to identify what your resistance to something is, you need to go for a long walk in a forest. You need to leave your phone in the car and go for a very long walk and give yourself a few hours sometimes. Often for me, before COVID, if I was doing a 14-hour flight, I used to do Sydney to Dallas like every kind of few weeks at one point. And I would just sit up there in the lounge on the A380 and I would just write sometimes for hours and hours and hours. So give yourself the time, have the courage to face things that could be unpalatable if you want to get to the bottom of why you're not taking action. So you can frame questions like, if I took this action, what would happen? And the obvious answer was, things would be great, everything would be different. Well, sometimes. But sometimes if you take an action, you might alienate people. You might be rejected. You might be laughed at. You might be ostracized. You might be seen as strange or different. So we're going to hit up against that great human need for social validation and connection. So it's, sometimes you got to ask yourself hard questions. What will happen to me if I begin this process? Why am I resisting it? Why have I not taken the action yet? If I'm not in a good shape physically, why have I not taken the action? If I'm lonely and would love to have someone in my life, why am I not going to places or joining groups or reaching out and being more socially active? Why am I not doing that? And it's just easier to sit on the couch. Sure. Well, then we're back to that. What's stopping you from valuing yourself enough to go forward? These are just tangents, right? Like all of us could pick issues. I can definitely pick things where I could be taking more action. So I'm on this journey with you guys. All right, that's it for today. Covey's telling us that if we want things to be different, we've got to take different actions. So let's look into those things that we need to be doing that we're not doing. I've got a big week ahead. I've got a 4,500 kilometer motorcycle round trip that I'm doing with my son on the back, which is going to be pretty exciting. We've got torrential rain forecast for the next week. So it's going to be one of those trips, I think, that's going to be cold, wet, slow, awful, and then utterly memorable about 6 months later, so looking forward to that. Growing my motorbike beard back. I usually try and shave for these episodes, and I'm going to go full feral beard for the road, and hopefully, if everything works out, I'm going to record some videos for you guys on that trip over the next little while, so you get a sense of where I am and what I'm doing, and hopefully I can bring you some insights from my land of hypothermia on the motorbike. All right, everybody, please make sure you've subscribed. Go and check out the links in the description. Grab yourself free access to Bridging the Gap, my book. Find out how to book me to speak. Get the podcast version. It's all there. But for now, that's it. My name's Jonathan Doyle. This has been The Daily Message, and I'm going to have another one for you tomorrow.